I'm a pretty like hardcore Magic the Gathering player, and so I've been playing like Magic Arena and enjoying those games, and also Parallel, which is a kind of Web3 version of the kind of trading card game genre. Absolutely love what they're doing, so that was a fun one to be a part of as well, or to I'm enjoying it as well.
That's very cool. So you're into RPGs, right? If you're into Magic the Gathering, you're kind of into RPGs.
Trading card games, and yeah, I'd say RPGs as well.
Nice, man. That's awesome. I love RPGs. I love trading card games and like deck builders as well. I recently got into this deck builder called Slay the Spire. Not sure if you've heard of it. It's very good. It's really very good.
Yeah, I published Slay the Spire in the Chinese market, so
No shit.
it's been a good time. Yeah, I mean, so one of the companies I used to, uh, like before kind of the Web3 and my Web3 life, I
Yeah.
used to lead operations and publishing at a company called TapTap, and essentially through TapTap, I've got to work on almost every mobile game that was popular enough to enter the Chinese market.
Right. Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you published it in Asia, but it's a European game. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the team is no, the team was not from Chinese, but the kind of like China side, we had a partnership with the team to essentially help them reach the Chinese market in terms of like marketing, user acquisition, and branding, and regulations and all that stuff.
Got it. That's super exciting stuff, man. I had no idea. That is actually really cool. What a cool coincidence. How about you, Henry? What kind of games are you playing when you're not building them?
Yeah, like of course I can't not say our own game, right? Metacine, but recently not been having that much time to play. Once in a while, I just go online and do some multiplayer, like Counter Strike 2 or I don't know, like Overwatch, something like that. Play a quick game, and that's it. It's what I'm having time recently. Apart from that, I'm not having much time to play other stuff that require like more playing time. To be honest, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair, man. I absolutely get that. So interesting because you say you're playing like those quick games like Overwatch and like Counter Strike, which in many ways influence, I'm guessing, the way Metacine works and Metacine looks because it's sort of it's an MMO, right? But it's an MMO with those rapid, like quick shooting elements, uh, which I thought it was pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, like Metacine has three different weapons, right? So there's a lot of strategy, and because of the PvP and the PvE in the game, you really have a lot of interaction between players, and it can get pretty fast paced depending on what you're playing, especially when there are some events that people are competing for rewards or trying to grab a nice loot. It's always like a really nice, like the competition and everyone getting together to play and so on. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not that much time recently to play that many other games. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. So when you do have the time to play like Counter-Strike or something, have you looked into it's come out I think a couple of months ago. And I think that like the community is already like ruled on it and banned it, but have you seen those new keyboards that came out from one of them's from Razer and they have this feature called like snap taps. So you know how when you press a key, it kind of only actuates at a certain point on the key press. So they've brought these points a lot higher into the keystroke, so it activates a lot earlier. And on a normal key, let's say you press right and then you press left at the same time, your character doesn't move, it just stays static. But with this keyboard, if you press right and then you press left as well, it will only take your last input. So you get from moving left to immediately moving right. You don't have that like split second when you're static. So that apparently gives a huge advantage people playing Counter Strike.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, the thing about these multiplayer games sometimes is that like cheaters, they make sometimes playing online kind of annoying, right?
Yeah.
In any live game, you end up finding these people. I mean, in this case, you're talking about the keyboard, but there are always people that are trying to have some, like auto aim or something, and then the dev will ban it, and then they'll come up with a way of making a new cheat. I used to play PUBG, for example, and there was a point where there were so many cheaters that you lose the interest of playing the game again. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like so for Counter Strike, they've had there's a lot of cheaters in Counter Strike, a lot of cheaters in Counter Strike or
Yeah.
Call of Duty as well. But the interesting thing about this keyboard is that initially, right, in esports, everyone said, "Oh, you know what? Like SnapTap, totally cool. Go ahead and use it, right?" And now, a few months into that, they've just banned it. You cannot use keyboards with SnapTap in competitive esports like Overwatch or Counter Strike or stuff like that. You just can't do it anymore.
I mean, it's kind of an advantage, let's say like that, right? I guess if everyone is using it in a competition, it should be okay, right? But
Yeah, no, 100%. You're probably aware of the sort of, I guess, the dose of skepticism that gamers have when it comes to Web3 or blockchain games, quote unquote, right? And I just want to understand what you think kind of created that skepticism in the first place, and how is the industry planning to go around it?
You want to go first, or should I kind of throw in Henry?
I want to hear it from both of you. I think you each have
Sure.
probably some
I'll go
unique
first.
perspective.
I mean, I'll be pretty brutally honest. The first generation of Web3 games, or this idea of play to earn, most of them were just Ponzi schemes. They're scams. They're the idea of creating. They were moving money around without actually generating real value. And when 99% of the player base is just looking to exit and looking to make some money from a game, you don't have an economy. You have a huge ledger of liabilities and debt. And so that skepticism, I think, is very natural, because after the big collapses of these Ponzi schemes, and a lot of people got hurt, it was very evident that this kind of model isn't sustainable, and is something that I think users or gamers have the right, and also uh, are I think justifiably disappointed or angry at Web3 games from that point on. And while this is something that always happens whenever new technology is implemented in the games industry, like there's always going to be people trying to take advantage of others through this new technology or through a new narrative. The inherent financial nature of blockchain technology enabled this kind of problem to be a lot more, to amplify this problem quite a bit. And so it would hurt a lot more people than, let's say, like a mobile game gambling scam that was ran back in
Right.
15 or 2016, or a kind of internet like game scam or whatever that was ran back in a couple years ago as well, because those things were not actually financially, they did not have that financial background. So that was pretty unfortunate. And in terms of what we're doing in term to kind of fix this is, number one, we do see value in blockchain technology in gaming. It has potential to improve user experiences. It has the potential to improve the way that games are developed, and it has the potential to improve the way that games are actually, well, like, in terms of the games are funded, and in terms of how the games are actually published. I can go into more details about that, but later. But essentially, because we see this value, we also know that the only way to really overturn these stigmas that was created beforehand is to actually create some true fun gaming experiences, and show users, and make sure that they can actually enjoy the real benefits, or the proper benefits of blockchain technology in games, and very high quality experiences. I mean, like games like Metacine, it's that's why we're looking to support games like Metacine, Catizen, or um, like Party Icons, Embers, or like these are games that if you play them, there's a true game experience, and something that's quite unique, and ones that I think are very, very much enhanced by blockchain technology. And the more that these kind of games come out, the quicker I think we'll be able to overturn the stigma that's out there.
Thank you. Yeah, agreed. And I think just to add to that point is, I think definitely part of the problem is that games Web3 games sometimes focus on the financial aspect of it more than anything else. So it becomes this kind of, farming experience, or, people actively looking for exploits to make as much money out of this game as possible before the Ponzi scheme just collapses. Um, but then there's also companies like Ubisoft, completely legit gaming companies, huge gaming companies that are just looking to make a profit off of NFTs, right? Like they were starting to, their onboarding into Web3 was, how can we jam NFTs into our games so that we can just get more money out of the players, right? And both of these approaches are the wrong approaches. I think completely agree with you there. The right approach is to make a game that, uses this technology to do new things that normal games would normally not be able to do. I think that's where the value lies.
I mean, I don't want to go too hard on the Ubisoft. They are investors in my company, and we're very close. But I can say
It's fine. They're not investors in mine, so I can go hard on them. It's all good.
they are a business, and they do have a responsibility to try and make the best decision for their shareholders and for their stakeholders. That's the nicest way for me to put it. But I completely there's a sensible and a non-sensible way to implement blockchain technology in games. I mean, like for example, FPS games. And like I just want to FPS player, you just want to sit down and shoot people. Like you want to enjoy the experience of shooting others and like doing this battle. You don't want to, like, most of these players are not going to want to also have to like manage asset values, understand how different assets are, like how much liquidity is in a skin that's in existence in the game and all that stuff. And so but a game like Metacine, where it's a MMORPG, where it's all about the second life, about what you can own in this kind of essentially the metaverse or in the game's universe, like suddenly that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's a big kind of area where developers are still trying to figure things out.
Yeah, 100%. Over to you, Henry. Keen to hear your point on it.
Look, I think some of the points were very good, right? First of all, the first batch of games, they were not very good games, right? They were basically DeFi protocols that were disguised as games, right? And that didn't last for too long. So it's understandable. There were so many scams in that time. I remember I was part of the market as an investor, not part of any big organization, but only as like a
Yeah.
personal investor, And I remember so many projects that they would launch and then they would run for maybe a month and then they would die, right? And then sometimes the teams, they would change the skin of the project. For example, before it was like a plane game, they would change to a car game, and then they would launch the project again. And there were projects that have done that like 3 times even, that I know, like the same dev change the same project like 3 times and launch it to
Wow.
the market and scam people 3 times. So when you have something like that, it's easy to understand, like, people that experienced this kind of games before, why they have certain restrictions and like are not very open to blockchain gaming, right? But I think that right now you see that there are many more games that uh, that they're considering more about user experience, gameplay. There are games that people are spending a lot of time to consider about how these games can be entertaining and be fun, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a game and the game is not entertaining, I guess that's the problem with it, right? The game has to be entertaining, has to be interesting. Even if it's a casual game, it can be very entertaining, right? There are games out there that's been around for like 10 years, like, I don't know, Candy Crush or something, that they're still
Yeah.
out there and people are still playing it because they're entertaining. People think they're fun, right? So I think that right now, the project's quality is the quality from the projects are higher, right? The teams are spending much more time into developing an actual decent user experience. For Metacine, it's been more than 2 years developing the game, testing the game. We did 3 alphas first, right? And then now we are on our
Right.
fourth alpha.
Oh, wow.
And Yeah, it's been a long time. And you know, we waited all this time, and we just released our token recently last week. So it was like 2 years just
Congratulations.
developing the project. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so 2 years just developing the project, testing. The first alphas, they didn't even have any kind of NFT or anything like that. It was only about gameplay, right? So I think that slowly people are getting a little more open about it, but it's understandable, right? Regarding because of the history and everything else. But for me, I always like to tell this story. But I've been on the game industry for 10 years, right? And I was working for a game developer, very big one, mobile game developer before,
Hmm.
and I was a player on this game that he spent in 1 year on this mobile game. He spent over $100,000, and
Wow.
after 1 year, he got tired of the game, and because I knew many of these big whales from the project, right? He sent me a message and told me like, "Look, Henry, thanks a lot for you guys provided me, but I'm no, I'm busy and I got bored of the game, so I'm not playing anymore." So basically, the guy just wasted $100,000 worth of characters, items, everything because it's a Web2 mobile game, centralized game, and he couldn't do nothing with it, right? If the dev discovers that he sold his account or something, they could ban it because that's something not allowed. So basically, the guy lost everything, right? When I saw that many years ago, it was really something that made me think like, man, there should be something better than this, right? Because it doesn't make sense for the person to spend so much money and time into something, and then one case is like the person stops playing or something. The other case is maybe like the dev, they launch the second version of the game, and then they just discontinue the first one, and then you lose everything that you had on the first one, right? Stuff like that. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
blockchain just makes sense. The perspective about the ownership of assets and everything, the transparency, right? There are so many games that are not very transparent regarding so many things, right? It's sometimes a little sketchy, for me, it just makes sense. And I guess it will take time for people to be very open about it, but slowly we're getting there.
Yeah, and fair point. And I wanted to go back to for a moment what you said that the games, the primary purpose of games is to be entertaining, right? And this is interesting because this also comes from you might actually know the guy John Allen, the creator of Game 7, G7. I think you guys are partnered with them, GeeZee.
Yeah, they're one of our, I think, biggest mental ecosystem partners, gaming ecosystem partners. Well, John Allen is the kind of public founder, but the other founder, Ronan Kirsch,
Right.
is the more the kind of founder, if that makes sense. But both of them are, both of them are amazing guys, truly
Yeah.
gaming industry veterans, people
Oh
I,
yeah,
I trust to,
100%.
yeah, the people I can trust with when it comes to putting a game out there.
Yeah, well, John had a fantastic story of how he got into crypto, and he spoke about it when we had him on a couple of episodes ago. And he also spoke about, games needing to be fun first and foremost. And one thing that I felt was really valuable is that he was saying that Web3 gaming at some point will just become gaming. Underlining technology is going to be blockchain, is going to be Web3, but the end user doesn't necessarily need to know, that this is a Web3 game or that it's using this chain or that chain or this protocol. It just, look, this is a fun game for you to play. Just go in and have fun and go nuts. And I think
Yeah,
kind of
most
that's the goal,
users.
maybe.
Yeah, most users. If you talk with Web2 users, they don't care about this kind of stuff, right? They don't want to
Right.
know like about the wallet, about what chain this is on. They want the game to work and to be entertaining, right? So as long as you have a solid structure, for example, we're using Mantle, right? The game is running fine. The user, they're doing the transactions, they work, and they don't affect the user experience. The users will be happy, right? So I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy way as well. Like you don't really care, what kind of underlining libraries your browser uses. You just care that it's going to take me onto the web and it's not Edge because that's a massive piece of shit. But other than that, I can just use whatever browser I want. and that's where the story ends, right? I feel like it's very. Or look at like Apple's mobile phone. They just released it right recently. People no longer care how, of the inside of a phone. It's a complete black box. You don't know what happens on the hardware side. You don't know what happens on the software side. All you care is that I'm having a great time. You pay a price for it, but I'm having a great time using this
Yeah,
device. It's giving me the value I want.
yeah, for sure.
So I was actually saying before that, John, who I'm spoken to, had like a interesting story about how he got into crypto, and this is kind of one of the things we do. I like asking people about their stories. I feel like you get such interesting insights over how people stumbled across crypto and blockchain, and I'd like to hear that from the both of you.
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess. When it comes to blockchain, um, so the reason I'll start kind of the reasoning. The reason I went to blockchain technology is because I think in the gaming space, like there really is all that is in traditional games. I mean, like all that can be done has already essentially been done. I feel like it has become in a way stagnant, and I mean it's still growing. There's still so much money and so much stuff to explore in the industry, but overall, it's become quite stagnant in terms of the way that things are run. And I didn't want to be stagnant. I wanted to keep kind of trying to do new and exciting things, and so that's kind of how I ended up choosing to work in the blockchain gaming space on the blockchain side. In terms of what I actually end up doing is like that kind of got me to become interested in this. It's a little bit of an interesting story. Essentially, I was playing Axie Infinity. I saw that the game was like it was a fun game. It was a okay developed game, and then I looked at the valuation of it, and it was like $36 billion. And
Jeez.
like just from a personal perspective, like from someone who worked in the games industry, it's not worth that much. Like it's just not. That's why I shorted it. Like anyone else, I mean, I shorted it. I made a pretty good bag from that, and then I figured like this Web3 gaming industry really could use some actual game developer and game publishing like background people, and that's kind of how I made that decision to become a part of it.
That's very cool. And that was also a very good call there. Yeah, if something just smells fishy, there's probably some funny stuff going on there.
Yeah.
How about you,
You,
Henry?
Henry? Yeah.
Yeah, my case, I think the first game that I saw was Splinterlands, maybe. Um, I joined the crypto space in 2017, and I always tried to follow like what was going on. The blockchain was always something that really interested me, right? Actually, before Splinterlands, there were like some Ethereum dApps, right, that started to play around the concept of gaming and stuff, even like CryptoKitties and stuff. I remember
Mm.
following these things happening, and I was just think like, this is very interesting, right? Especially because coming from the traditional gaming industry, to start seeing these new concepts and everything made me really interested. And just like this, I got tired of the traditional Web2 gaming industry and wanted to take part of something new and exciting and that had space for development and growth, because when you work in the same industry for many years and then you're seeing that there's not many things changing, you can stay there and keep doing your thing, or you can just move out, right, and start doing something different. It's what I did as well. And I was latest company I was working was Tencent, right? It's a very good company. I was happy there and everything, but I just wanted to try different things. And Web2 gaming just got uh, boring, I guess, for me, work wise. And I wanted to explore the blockchain opportunities. So I just quit and went 100% in. Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's fantastic. Quick question before we proceed. I'm not sure who's got it, but could you just silence your phone so we don't like people don't hear the ping on the in the audio? That's fine. Cheers, man. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so you've both kind of noticed that Web2 space, traditional gaming space, has gotten a little bit stale, which I completely agree with. I feel like games are very formulaic now. There's a very very well defined formula for a game. It's got to have these elements and it does these things. And I do agree that there's more freedom in doing blockchain and Web3 games, which is why I wanted to discuss, you know, kind of the details or some more of the intricacies of Metacine. Like, what are the actual Web3 blockchain aspects of the game, and what makes it, you know, different from a traditional game? You mentioned, Henry, that you've released your token recently. So maybe we can start there discussing how that token impacts, you know, game world, real economy, and kind of go into the like the deeper aspects of the blockchain functionality there.
Yeah, sure. So like uh, Alan, our CEO, he used to build MMORPGs since like over 20 years ago, right?
Right.
So most traditionally, they all have some gameplay that people are very familiar with. PvP, PvE, quest system, character progression, and everything. And we have everything on our game as well, right? Like you were mentioning, the blockchain, how's the blockchain integrated is that, for example, there are a few different areas, right? One area is regarding the NFTs, of course. So the game, when the player they join Metacine, they start acquiring equipment in the game or weapons, right, for their
Mm-hmm.
characters. They are centralized items, right? These are like lower level equipment and so on. From mid to higher levels, you start having the NFTs that actually can bring some benefits to for the users to hold them, right? So you have these NFTs that are like the equipments, the some weapons, right, mid to higher levels, and then we introduced in our latest version, our latest alpha, a reactor core gameplay, play to earn gameplay. It's basically you have a reactor core, and then you can, by killing some bosses and participate in some events, you get some energy to feed this reactor core, right? And then generate NFTs that bring you uh, token rewards, right? And I think that right now on Metacine, you have the reactor core function, you have mining machines that mine resources that can also be converted to tokens, right? Then you have these markets that are open. The users, they can do open trading between themselves. So if you have a person from your guild and you want to sell something to the person, you can directly sell, right? I think like MMO, since very early on, you had this kind of like trading and this kind of mechanic, but right now with blockchain, we have so many more opportunities, right? And then we also have the NFT collections outside the game itself, right? One that acts like a pass. It's called right? Medicinal Postal NFT.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a battle pass. Like in a game, in traditional Web2 game, you would buy a battle pass, pay a fee every month, and then you get some benefits. We have our battle pass, if I can say like that. We have our pass where the users, they get airdrops, they get benefits in the game, they get access to special dungeons and stuff like that. And this is on the blockchain, right? This NFT is an NFT. And then we also have NFT collection that's called the Treasure Box. It's a stake to earn collection. So you don't have time to play the game. You want to be involved into the ecosystem. You can stake it and earn rewards as well, earn some benefits as well. And yeah, we are building a server fi as well. It's something that I can explain a little more, but we have the tokens, we have the NFTs, we have the mining machines, and we're going to do a lot more, right? The governance and the servers, as I mentioning. So it's an MMO with the extra layer of blockchain. We don't intend it to like disrupt the player experience. So even on Metacine, when you get an NFT, it goes to your wallet, but it's not on chain, right? It goes through the wallet inside the SDK from the game. So when you want to put it on chain, you do the transaction into inside the game into the wallet, and you do it. So it doesn't affect the player actually experience while they are playing the game. Even we started even pushing the game through Web2 channels, and like Web2 users, they can use their email to create an account, come and play, right? They don't need to have crypto knowledge to enjoy the game. So I guess it's briefly speaking something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's important. It's important that people don't have they don't necessarily have the knowledge to play a game. They just need to be able to play the game, right? And I think that's important, 100%. So you mentioned that the NFTs or the tokens stay in the application's SDK, so they probably stay on a whatever server, and then they can get transferred to their wallet. But until they make the transfer, it's technically not theirs.
No, yeah. When the user uses their email, they get a wallet created for them inside the game, right? In our SDK.
Right.
So um, when the users they want to put it on chain, they just need inside the game to do the transaction to pass it to the chain, right? So the thing is that it's an MMO. You're playing PvP against a guy, and then you're killing a boss, and then you get an NFT. Just think about it. You get an NFT, and then you gotta pay a gas transaction fee. Stop in the middle of the battle just to drop the thing. It doesn't make any sense, right? So it has to be
100%.
dynamic, right?
Yeah.
No,
No, for sure. I actually saw a video, and I think it was a joke. Probably, I'm pretty sure it was a joke. But I saw this video on YouTube a while back with signing transactions every time you attack or something. So every sword strike is like sign transaction, and then a new MetaMask pops up, sign transaction.
Yeah.
Of course, that
But
wouldn't
I've
work.
seen games like that. I've seen games like that before. Right now, it's not that common anymore, but I remember seeing games like that. And
Oh,
sometimes it's
wow.
like you're in the middle of the game. I remember there was a game on Polygon. I don't remember exactly the name, but I went to a show, right? To like some like people were sharing about projects, and I was watching the keynote, and a guy was showing the game live, and then he did a transaction on Polygon in the middle of the game, and the transaction wouldn't go through, so he got stuck in the middle of the presentation, and he
Oh.
was like so embarrassed, because it's like everyone was looking like, what the hell is going on? Like, where's the game? Like, what's going on? So yeah, I mean, we evolved from there for sure, but I've seen things like that before. Yeah.
It's crazy that someone thought that's acceptable as a user experience to kind of just have that obvious disruption, happening before in your gameplay experience.
and I think, yeah, I mean, the Metacine team is very, very sensible with the way they're implementing the blockchain side of this game. They like if it's a single attack, there's no reason to put it on chain. But if it's like an asset that a user took like hours of their life grinding and crafting and creating, and to help secure the value of the asset and help ensure that it is truly theirs, maybe incurring a gas fee or paying a small transaction as a cost, yeah, users will do it. And I think that is something that is valuable enough for users to do it. Like, this is something that the team is just very, very good at doing. And, uh, like Henry, man, like, I love the guy. He's a little modest. He's a little modest. When it comes to this founder, Alan Tan, like, the guy is, he's not just an MMORPG guy. He is like the legendary, the MMORPG guy. He's the founder of a company called Shanta Games, which was essentially like one of the biggest and most successful MMORPG game companies in essentially the world. They are, in many ways, Alan is like the grandfather of MMORPG games. He worked on Mirror, he worked on Lineage, Maple Story, like all the executives of like Tencent, NetEase, Netmarble, Nexon either worked with him or worked for him at some point in time. Like,
Oh, wow.
15 years ago, he was that guy, and then he retired. He had his bag, and he took some time just to like chill and play around, and then he saw Web3 as an opportunity to make an amazing MMO, like something that is just truly new and innovative and fun. And so he decided to build this team. And when he announced that he wanted to build this team, literally all the top talent in the MMORPG game development industry, like, I'm not kidding, every single person wanted to be on this team. So his team of game developers is just a group of legends, like that in every single way in the games industry. It is ridiculous like how much talent, how much basically their like experience is on that team. And then, yeah, so I mean, like, the guy's crazy, and then like amazing, and then after all that, so I am so grateful to be able to work with this guy as well. Like, given his background and be able to work with Alan, And then one of the things that I think really showed, and it's a really good precursor to the Web3, to kind of Web3 and blockchain gaming or open economic system games, is a game called Fantasy Westward Journey. It's the flagship game of NetEase. It's been in operation for about 20 years and has generated about 26 billion US dollars worth of revenue. As part of this game, they have this open market system where players can trade assets and trade weapons and stuff. And weapons are going up to like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and people are buying and trading them. And you have players or users who are really spending time arbitraging and exchanging crafting items just in this marketplace and becoming millionaires and actually making a living out of it. And that is something I think it's like truly, and that's truly what Web3 gaming can become, like a eventual potential for a Web3 games. And I think no one, maybe other than the team itself, no one understands this like system and this type of game better than Alan Tan, who's the founder of Metacine.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I knew he was the founder of this massive MMO. It's basically a venture capitalist company, isn't it? That kind of invests into all of these big MMOs, right? So he's been doing that for a long time.
Develop, publish, invest, basically the whole journey for MMORPGs, like this
Oh
guy.
wow,
Yeah.
that is really cool. So in many ways, and Metacine is really in good hands from that perspective. Amazing. So, you mentioned something really interesting, that there was this game. I didn't quite catch the name because I think you're breaking up for a moment. What was the name of the game?
It's called Fantasy Westward Journey. It's a game that uses like social and a lot of social and economic kind of systems in the game to drive a lot of user interaction and drive the growth of the game. And so it's literally it's literally the flagship game for NetEase, which is one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. And yeah, that game is built on the game has gone 20 years of like amazing economic kind of flow and economic transition without any delays. And I think that's something that's really amazing, that the medicine team was able to integrate a lot of the core mechanisms from that game into a Web3 MMORPG.
Got it. Fantasy Westward Journey. Amazing. Faiza's just there typing the name of the game. Thank you for that. I'll check this out. That sounds really interesting, and I'm always like into checking out new and innovative things. I think even we were talking a bit earlier about the beginning of Web3 games, and the kind of the beginning of seeing stuff like every action requires a transaction or a signing or something like that. Even if that's horrible UI, and it most definitely is, I think it's good that someone made that step. I think it's great that someone decided to go and build a completely different kind of game using completely different experience, and that was maybe just the first pass. Like, you need even bad ideas in this space, to propel the ecosystem itself. And I think this is definitely one thing that this ecosystem, this industry, is really good at, and I'm mainly talking about crypto, at trying out the limits of what's possible, what is good, what is bad, what we leave behind, right? If you think about the bull market that we had in 2019, we had all these like high yield APY kind of staking farming businesses, and everyone was just making money virtually doing nothing. Oh, just stake your coins and you're just going to make 20% API, or ridiculous numbers like that. And obviously, once the bull market was over, it turns out that these companies were not financially sustainable during any other market but a bull market. So they all went crashing down, right? You had Celsius, you had all these, kind of high yield farming businesses. But that taught the industry that this is the wrong way of doing things. Let's be better in the future, right? So I think that also applies to gaming, to Web3 gaming. Let's stop doing cash grabs. Let's stop doing like, overly NFTifying everything and just focus on the aspects of the game that are really important in that matter. It's great to hear you guys talking about that as well.
Yeah, and that I think that anyone that's trying to build honest projects in the space, I think it's always valid, right? It always helps as long as they're not building scammy projects. I think everyone that's trying to make something different, that's trying, it brings value to the space and helps other projects as well, right? People need to try things and fail in order to find the things that work, right? So I think it's even the games that were launched many years ago that were very bad and so on, but it help us to reach where we are at the moment for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to get a little bit into more of the technical aspects with regards to how Metacine works with Mantle. What is the connection there? And also maybe GeeZee, if you want to briefly explain exactly where Mantle sits in the EVM layer network, I think that would be important for people to kind of understand the connection and where people expect to have their tokens and how they can, withdraw them, trade them, or anything like that. I think you're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I can start with just explaining a little bit about starting with. I'll focus on gaming side of Mantle. We are a little bit different from a lot of the other ecosystems. So I'm the head of gaming at Mantle. My actual name is Grant, by the way. I just don't use that name because people think I'm money and not a real person. So I go by GeeZee. Yeah, and like the team I built with the gaming team I built at Mantle, we all come from a background of games publishing, games operations. Like I worked on games like League of Legends, worked on publishing, Teamfight Tactics, led head of operations at TapTap, had Ragnarok, uh, Game of Thrones game, and a Transformers game. Like I've done extensive amount of games publishing and acquired over 800 million players into the games I work on. And everyone that I hired on to this team or that I built is also have a background in games publishing. And the reason I did this is so that we can actually get involved into the games that we commit to in terms of providing support beyond just like traditional ecosystems where it might just be like a couple of tweets through Twitter or a couple of like some funding and stuff like that. Like we can do all that as well, and we do. But in addition, we get involved in tokenomics, into game design, into marketing design, marketing campaigns, into uh, go to market in terms of fundraising, in terms of listing, and all these things. And so that's kind of one of the things that we end up kind of doing a little bit differently from the other ecosystems. And the other thing is because of this extensive kind of support system that we put into each game we commit to, we don't actually select a lot of games to work on. And my goal right now is 7 games to get them out there and get them to see a 100% success rate across 7 games, which is something that's pretty much impossible and like unheard of in the games industry.
What do you mean by really quickly? What do you mean by 100% success rate?
I mean, 100% success rate meaning making them into genre-defining games in or each team into genre-defining games in their own kind of system. So, for example, the first game that we put out there was Catazin. Catazin is the Telegram game, the highest revenue generating and uh, most users, and essentially kicked off this entire kind of Telegram mini game ecosystem. Metacine is this MMORPG that is truly changing how MMORPGs are built. After I think based on, and I hope based on how we end up putting out Metacine, we're going to show the world this new type of experience that I believe is going to have the world copy it. And then we have games like Party Icons, which is going to be probably the most interesting way that I can think of publishing a party game that gets everyone involved into the ecosystem, whether it is the influencers, the people that are streaming the game, whether it's the investors, the players themselves. They all have a different role that they get in, and they're all linked together through the token. So each game that we put out there, we want them to be essentially the genre defining game or the genre leading game in their own system. And so that's the type of support that we put. And then on top of that, we have the tech side. So from a tech side, like Mantle is so far one of the lowest gas fees, if not the lowest gas fee, EVM L2 or like Ethereum L2 out there, which basically means that, as you guys said, the user doesn't want to pay for gas fees when just playing a game. They might want to pay for some gas fees when securing a very high value asset like a token or some weapon or armor that they spend hours and hours to farm and to create. But like if in that case, but we still want to imprint these users the ability user activity on chain or put these things into something that users accept, then having a lower gas fee will make it a lot easier and a lot cheaper for whether it's a developer or the kind of Mantle ecosystem. Number two is we do have one of the best funded chains in terms of development. Our treasury, actually, I think in terms of Mantle, is still the largest treasury in the Web3 space. We had it's about 5 billion. I think it's a little bit less now, but in terms of hard assets, meaning Ethereum, BTC, stable coins, and we're able to essentially make sure that we have all the best talent when it comes to development. Whereas other chains, may have seen some delays or stagnance at like 20 or 30 TPS. At the last year, end of December, we went up to I think almost 60 TPS and not a single delay, not a single blockage, not a single piece of congestion. So in terms of stability, something like that, it's something that I think developers can really trust and rely upon. And then and when it comes to gaming, it's just I think a lot of gaming experience and expertise that given our background that I've been able to contribute quite a bit into all the different projects that we've committed to.
Yeah, 100%. That sounds like a really good match, right, for you guys. Like using Mantle, I'm talking about Metacine, using Mantle to obviously power the Web3 parts of the game. It just feels like it's working really well. So Henry, do you maybe want to explain a little bit about sort of the technical aspects of the blockchain parts of the game? Okay, so it obviously works on the Mantle network, and people can withdraw their NFTs to the Mantle network, and then they can swap, on any EVM compatible chain. Is there any do people ever need to use a test net or anything that would kind of explain to people how they're expected to interact with the Web3 aspects of it?
Yeah, so our game is running an SDK from Ninja, and in the SDK, the users they can do basically everything inside the game. So the in-game shop, it's everything in game. The users they can put their equipment for sale. They can buy equipment. You have the swap function. You have like the on-chain, off-chain transactions that you can do. So it's pretty straightforward, the in-game wallet and all the transactions. We normally don't use any testnet or something like that. We just try to give enough education and tutorials in our communities for the users that are not familiar with blockchain. But and then we have a lot of influencers as well, content creators that also always help us to create guides and things like that I think is the easiest way for a Web2 person to understand how to jump into the Web3 aspects of a game, right? So for example, we did an ambassador event on Gold Rush for the first month, and we had more than 200 content creators that were creating content for the game, and many of them made videos on YouTube and other Web2 platforms showing people how to get advantage from the Metacine Web3 aspects, how to transfer what they earned, even maybe some user they not familiar with the NFTs, or they don't know how they can transfer USDT to where. These guys all have content teaching that, and I think that it's the game. It's not complicated, for a person that's not familiar with blockchain. I think the Metacine is pretty straightforward, right? But of course, knowing about transactions and wallets and things like that, they might need to have some learnings, right? So that's also why our new play to earn feature, the Reactor Core, it only starts after the user plays for some time. They open it at level 24, so it's not something that
Mm.
the users they join the game and they are doing this thing with NFTs, because they will many if you are a Web2 users, you might not be able to understand. But if you put some time to the game and you understand how the assets work, you see the equipment and start getting the items, slowly you can much better understand what are these NFT things, what are the normal items, what's the difference. And then if it's not something very clear, as I said, there's like really a bunch of tutorials and videos for the users to jump into to check. But we really try to not make the blockchain aspects of the game too heavy. It's a very important part of our game, of course. We are a Web3 game, right? One thing that we are doing that I think it's very exciting in that sense is that we're coming with a concept called server-fi, right? We want users to be part of building the servers of the game with us, building the Metacine universe with us. So Metacine is going to have many different servers, and many that are not controlled completely by us. They're going to be controlled by organizations and other people. And these servers, the users, they'll be able to participate in governance. The servers will be able to have special events, localization, assets. And
Oh
one
wow.
thing that we want to do is we want to have Web2 users also being able to join the servers. And the main thing is that when you are participating in the server, when you hold the NFT that's it's going to be the NFT from the server system, you'll be able to earn revenue share from the servers as well. So the users, they'll be able to earn revenue share from both Web2 and Web3 users that are participating into the game, right? So I think that this is also something that blockchain wise and that we're pushing, that we're building, and I think that it's very exciting as well, and something that we want to make the gap, for the blockchain part and the Web2 part like smaller, put these people together, right? We're also going even to launch App Store and Google Play versions of our game for Web2 users. So, I think like blockchain is the for any Web3 game is a very important area, but at the same time, it can't disrupt the player experience. It has to improve it, right? So that's what we're trying to do here.
That's very cool. That's very. I have to say, I do like the fact that you're only focusing on like some important items that become mintable. Like I imagine playing the game and then getting like a cool ass sword or weapon or pistol, and I'm like, I really want to mint this because this is cool, and I might even sell it if I want. Like, that's a cool idea, and I appreciate that. Um, and also, you mentioned that people will be able to run their own servers, or either organizations or individuals, and they can further monetize through that. But that brings me to my question, which is, how are you guys currently monetizing or are planning to monetize the game, because it is free to play at the moment?
Yeah, inside the game you have some NFTs, you have skins, you have the mining machines, and then you have the transactions, right? And the users, the token is the Metacine token. We launched the token. The users, they'll be able to use the token to buy blind boxes, and then just like any traditional game, you can charge the some resources. You can use money to buy some resources inside the game. It's not something that's game breaking, but if you want to spend the money to grab a special NFT, or to get some access to some resource, you can do it, right? You have the path of users that they have the time to put into the game to grind, and you have people that they don't want to put so much time, so they might spend money to help them with certain things into the game, right? And I think that's kind of what we're been doing, right? Our first NFT collection was 100% uh, free, right? It was a free mint collection, and then we launched the second one, and like the test so far, we've been giving away a lot of items and stuff. But at the same time, on Gold Rush, just the first month we had over 250,000 transactions on the chain
Right.
for the game. So people are actually using the blockchain aspects, actually paying the fees, actually they're willing to do it because they're enjoying the game, right? So when you have people that are like that, then you have the revenue coming from all the sources, from the resources, from the NFTs and so on, that people are interested in getting, right? For example, our reactor core and so on. So yeah, that's kind of how we've been doing so far. And then with Serverify, we're going to have some extra, areas and places that we can improve that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I would expect that to be part of like most, even like traditional MMO games. That's kind of how they work, right? Free to play MMO games. I remember when I was playing. I used to play. I've said this before, but I used to play Cabal Online. Back in the day, like years and years ago, when it was much bigger than it is today. I'm not sure if it's still online at this point. And yeah, you could go and buy like upgrade cores and stuff from the shop with real money if you wanted to just fast track your progress, which is totally cool.
Um, a while back, there was an experiment that Diablo 3 tried to do with this thing called the auction house, where they essentially made a completely open market and players can trade, anything that they create and farm with each other. And that auction house ended up being shut down within 2 weeks of launch. Actually, it was 3 months of launch. In 2 weeks, they limited it and changed it, but either way, they figured they could actually make it work. Looking back on that, one of the main reasons they couldn't make it work is because like it was too inflationary, meaning when players are able to trade things completely uninhibited and at a completely free, like costless rate, basically it makes the game actually not that fun. It makes it so that a lot of players have to skip a lot, like are can just skip a lot of the gameplay and skip a lot of the kind of elements that make the game fun to be able to go out and just essentially pay to win and instead of becoming the most classic pay to win possible. And I think that's something that Metacine has been like really understands. And what they end up doing a little bit differently is providing a essentially kind of like a transaction fee or between the exchange of different assets. And this fee basically acts as a deflationary mechanism and also acts as a kind of scarcity mechanism to ensure that the assets that players have hold on to their value and actually will grow in value over time. And that's something that also end up generating revenue for the team. So it's a little bit I think it's a little bit of a unique kind of approach to this, but also one that I think creates quite a. It's a very interesting model that's able to create value for all the parties involved.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it is like in internal game economy is one of the most important things because if it's a broken game economy, then the game does not, as an MMO, the game's not going to work. And I guess there are different ways you can ensure that doesn't happen. You could make sure that you've got a limited or a certain cadence of supply release of any item, so there's never too much supply or someone can't just flood the market with like too much of one item to the point that that becomes worthless. But yeah, that sounds like a good way of going about it. There is one thing that I meant to run past both of you because I thought it was really interesting in terms of like how some web mobile gaming companies are able to basically make a lot of money by really not building the game that they're saying they're building. And it just came into my head now, but I was watching this video about, I'm sure you're getting them as well. Like if you go on Twitter and you go on YouTube and you see ads from games that are like those, like a guy shooting at the barrels coming his way or something, and they're getting coins or stuff like that. And it turns out that the game that you're being advertised doesn't actually exist. What exists is a completely different game with a very limited version of the game that you're being advertised as a mini game in the game. And that's just at almost at the edge of technically what's legal there, right? The reason they do this, then is really interesting, is that they're actually not building the game. They're building ads. They're like a marketing agency that are building ads, and whatever is the best performing ad, whether it's shooting balloons or shooting barrels or like calculating numbers, they run that ad then on a mass scale and they build the mini game after getting the ad results.
Yep. So in a way, kind of. The other thing that happens here, and it's kind of a games industry, a little bit secret. Not secret, but a problem that's happening in not the games, in the advertising industry that spills over to games industry is that all of the traffic is actually controlled by a couple of big entities: Facebook, Google, ByteDance, so TikTok, Douyin, I guess, and like these major entities, and they have these ad networks where they have all the user data in terms of like how when does users sleep, what kind of what kind of ads do they click on, what kind of products do they buy. They have all this data, and they don't share that data with anyone. I mean, one, because of legal issues, but two is because that's a lot of money. And so when
Right.
they sell and they sell these users through the form of ads, right? And they sell it to game publishers. And so one of like the things that I did when I was publishing games was I went out and I bought users from these ad networks as a game publisher. And I'd say out of the 800 million players I've acquired to different games I worked on, probably close to like 750 million of them was through ad networks like this and through exactly optimizing ad experiences. I it is it is actually one of the most kind of depressing like work out there, because what we end up doing is focusing on a conversion rate. We want to make sure our ads get, like, that's all we can really do is focus on conversion rates. We can give ads and create different ads that have the best conversion rates, and then Google, Facebook, all these ad networks will display it to more people, and then they get more money because the more people that click on these ads, the more revenue that they get, because we're paying them for this. And so the way for us to optimize the performance is through conversion rates. The problem there, we have no idea how to get these users, like we have no idea what the quality of these users are, whether or not these users actually enjoy the game that we want to play, that we're showing them, or will engage in the game or actually spend money in our game. So the reason we can't do that is because we don't have data on these users. Only Google, Facebook, and these major conglomerates have this data. And that's also another reason why I believe in Web3 technology and gaming so much, because everything's public, everything's on a digital ledger. You can see, like not completely, but like you can see a guy's wallet's history, and you can see a gamer, which assets that they're holding. Are they holding assets in Metacine? Oh, they might like MMORPGs. Are they holding assets in Kazan? Oh yeah, they might be someone who enjoys hyper casual games. Like, this is something that we can see where they put their transactions and what they're doing, and suddenly this data is in the hands of our game publishers, and now we can actually create ads and better target the users that we want to target. And also, from a user and a gamer's perspective, you're not getting recommended some fake ad, something that just trying to trick you to convince you to click on this ad. You're actually getting recommended products or games that actually might be fun for you. That's something that you actually might enjoy. And that's what my old company actually ended up doing, is TapTap ended up doing it. How did it become so successful? But I think the scale of what TapTap was able to accomplish was quite limited when compared to what we're going to be able to do with Web3 and with blockchain technology.
Right. Yeah. So that completely makes sense to me. It's obviously the marketing department of any game publisher needs to focus on conversion and needs to focus on getting the results 100%. The thing that did make sense to me though was, why would you go creating an ad which effectively advertises a very different product? And when you do that, you set different expectations into someone's mind. You're getting me to think I'm gonna go and pop balloons, but then I end up in a world building game, right? Like, um, you might get click throughs because the ad itself is addictive and it creates it's performing, but I think you lose retention rates because people are less likely to stick around once they found out that the game is not what they thought that it
Yeah,
was going to be.
and that's the
Yeah,
problem.
but
We can't
like
control who these ads are shown
because
to.
sorry, Giz,
Go
you
ahead,
can you
Andrew.
can you can talk first.
Okay, I'll just say the problem there is that as game publishers, when we work with these major ad networks to buy users or to display ads, we don't get control over who these ads get shown to. The network gets to choose. And the network, when they choose, their way of choosing who and how much we have to pay, because it works on a bidding model. It's always
Yeah.
like how much you're willing to bid to for each of these ad spots. And we all and the other thing they consider is conversion or click-through rate. How often are these ads actually clicked? And these two things are the only thing that ad networks really care about, because that's how much money they make. So we can't control, like, our bid. Well, we always want to bid lower if possible, and the only way for us to bid lower is to raise the click-through rate. And so basically the only way we can get our ad in front of more people at a cheaper rate is to put out ads that have high click-through rates. We can't control who they're going to show them to. We can't control what the actual event is. That's essentially what happens as a traditional games publisher, and it sucks. It's something that is essentially why I'm doing Web3 games, and one of the big reasons from it, from my perspective. Sorry, Henry, if you want to.
No, yeah. I think he's made some very clear points. And one thing is that before, because I worked for a long time with Web2 game publishing, right? And I remember when these kind of ads started to become popular, it was, I think the first ones I saw was maybe this kind of like game, like Gardenscapes type of game, similar type of game, right? And the thing is that the first companies that started to make these ads started to realize that they worked, like as Giz said, for the CTRs were really high, right? People would click on them, and there would be the reach on the platform ads. Sometimes they would guys push on Facebook or something, would be very very big, right? And then many people would come to the game, and then they're like, "Oh, what the hell is going on? This is not the same game." Some people would leave, some people would stay and play, right? And then, but then what happened? You said like they started to the mini game sites that these companies started to realize. First, legally, they were advertising something that was not actually the games, right? And then the second thing is that they start to realize that people were actually interested in the games that were showcasing on these ads, right? So they're like,
Right.
okay, if people want to play this mini game that we're showing in the ads, let's do it. And then they started building these mini games inside their games because people were clicking and were interested. People were like, "Oh, I wanted to play like the little balloon game. Like, where is it?" Right? And then they started to put also inside the game. So this is really funny, right? In the beginning, it's like kind of like a clickbait strategy to drive people into opening the game and then playing it, right? May have a cheap, as Giz said, cheap advertisement and so on. Like, and then in the end it started to be like this became an extra gameplay inside the games because of these ads performed so well and people were so interested. So I think that's really really funny.
It is. It is. It's interesting that it's kind of it worked that way, because you'd expect you get the product built and launched and ship it, rather than you put the ad out and then you build the product and then you get the people to play the game that they wanted to play because they saw it. Yeah. But yeah, like you were saying, GeeZee, like that wouldn't happen anymore, I guess, with a game where you can actually have some control over the kind of users that you're targeting, which is great to hear. Because I've worked in marketing for a while, and I understand that there's a certain element of I want this to perform as best as it possibly can, but also retaining the what are we doing here? Where is that line between, is this still what we're actually offering, right?
Yeah,
So I get that.
and I mean the other unfortunate thing is a lot of times when you click through, like, one is that there's no game behind it, so they see which ad gets the best kind of click through rates or best attention, and then they make the game. But like that one, I'm okay with it for the most part. The other one is, like, a lot of times when you click on these kind of ads, and you'll see a lot of the games using almost the exact same type of ads, like the puzzle ad where you're like pulling pins and trying to do like
Yeah.
a physics game, or the kind of like choose your next move ad where you choose different, like, either way, like, it's always common, like the same type of ads. And you'll notice if you actually end up clicking any of them, the game behind them mostly is a predatory monetization, microtransaction, pay to win, uh, like SLG. And
Oh yeah.
almost always it's an SLG. And it's because that's one that basically makes the most money. They don't need a high conversion rate. They just need to get, like 200 users spending $100,000 a game, and they're making bank. So it's worth it. So
Right.
that's the type of projects that are out there. And I
So
think
just get the whales, basically.
exactly that's
You're
all
just
they need
hunting
is
for the
a
whales.
couple
Yeah.
of whales. hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, I think that's something that as we develop the Web3 games industry and get more kind of user activity, gamer activity on chain, we're going to be able to basically filter these games out and disincentivize these kind of projects from doing as these type of products as much.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds great. um, well, listen, both. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm really excited to just keep up to date with what you guys are building at Metacine, and obviously all of the partnerships and everything at Mantle as well. And I had a quick look. Actually, I had a quick look at the game, got into it a little bit, and I don't have much time to play anymore. But whenever time allows, I might just give it another shot just to see, um, any new developments. I think it's an idea worth pursuing, and I think it's a well balanced kind of mix between Web 2 and Web 3. And I just wanted to ask you guys if you had anything that you wanted to announce or anything you wanted to say in closing before we wrap up.
I kind of something I just always say whenever I do any type of things like this is it's really for the gamers out there. It's like, you know, if you're a gamer and you're tired of all these like repeat experiences, you're tired of like Call of Duty coming out with a 15th game, or the like all these type of things. It's the reason that these companies do so is because that's where the money is, right? And money meaning money from gamers like yourselves. And so if you guys want new experiences, go out and fun experiences, go out and support the fun and new experiences. Stop playing and putting money into these kind of repeats and stuff like that, and show these kind of companies that that's not what you guys want. And yeah, at least from a Mantle perspective, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to really get these really fun, innovative, and new experiences out there for gamers out there. So if that is what you're looking for, come check out the games that we're working on with from the Mantle side.
100%. Stop funding the games you're bored with. Yes. Awesome. Anything from you, Henry?
Yeah, we'll start season 2 very soon on Metacine. Gold Rush is still ongoing. It's first test that it's totally open before we require users to have a whitelist to play, right? So people can go to download.metacine.io, get an Android or the PC version. Same account works on both devices. And then, I welcome users to join. We launched our token last week. We are on 10 different exchanges, if I remember right, because we have launched into 4, and there were a couple of them that launched the token by themselves. So, yeah, MK token is live. We're going to add a lot of value and bring it into more and more utilities in the game. So, yeah, welcome users to learn more about the project. Go check it out, Metacine. Go check about our token and join our Discord or follow us on Twitter for what's coming next, including Serverify. There's a lot of things coming. Yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for the opportunity and for the time. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Nice one. Thanks a lot. So I think your track is just uploading. It's got a little while to go left. But thanks a lot. I think it's been really helpful, and I wish you guys all the best. And yeah, really looking forward to see what you're gonna, how Metacine is gonna evolve. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out on it. And I meant to say this to. Oh, thank you, Faiza, for organizing as well. I meant to say this to GeeZee as well. You're welcome anytime in the future to discuss or to announce anything new, or to just talk about the development of the project. I would love to have you on another time.
Sure. Thanks a lot for the.
So we don't typically do that, but we can. We typically just leave it unedited. Um, we leave it quite raw, so we'll just going through edit the. Well, normally we do video editing with the faces and with the camera shots, but I think just keep this one as audio. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care.